Hey folks, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today I'm making a new strop. This strop, it's been around for a little while and I'm going to keep using it, but I've got a few nicks on it here where I was using it to demonstrate, and then I would allow people that aren't that familiar to use it, and it's gotten chewed up just a little bit. And I want to show you how I make one of these. I'm going to keep using this because it's still in usable condition for sure, but I'm making another one. One of my great viewers emailed me a while back, actually quite a while back, and said, I've got some leather. Do you want some? I said, sure. And he sent me some leather. And I forgot to film most of what I was doing. So what I got was a piece of scrap wood that's roughly this size. It was a little bit longer than this. I chopped down the ends to make them square. And then I just used, I didn't have much of a saw handy. I just used a saw to, cut straight down into here a little ways, straight down into this side, and then along with the grain as well. And then sanded. It's still pretty rough, but it's still mostly rectangular shape, but the corners are knocked down, and it's certainly good enough for our purposes. You don't have to make this thing beautiful to be fully functional. The piece of leather I had was one long, narrow piece. I cut it in half, and I did that. I measured it before I started cutting the wood, and I cut a flat piece. The width of the leather, actually it's just slightly more narrow than the leather, and all I did was use regular wood glue. Now that's the construction wood glue that's yellow. Even regular white glue can work. It's not as good as construction glue, the yellow stuff. But you could buy some construction adhesive in a tube, and that's usually like a brown, a deeper brown kind of color. Just follow the instructions on how long it takes to cure and everything. So I put those pieces on here, and there's some squeeze out and things. And on this little video, I'm just going to clean that up, and then I'm going to show you what I use for strop compound. So keep watching. Now what you want to do is you want to put glue all over either one surface or the other, so on the leather or the wood. And if you're just putting on a thin coating of glue, do it on both surfaces. If you're generous with your glue, you just need it on one side. And, put the glue on, put it down on a solid surface if you don't have clamps, and then put the other piece down on a solid surface. If you've got clamps and some more wood, put some more wood on either side and then clamp it nice and tight. If you don't, then put it down on a flat surface, put another flat surface on top, and weigh it down with something heavy. Maybe you've got some old paint cans. Maybe you've got a bigger garbage can that you could put some water in, because water is heavy for its size. Anything to put some weight on there. If you're using this yellow glue, let it sit with that weight on there for at least 2 hours. Because you're using fairly porous stuff here, it's not going to dry quite as quickly. It's going to soak in. Longer is better. 24 hours is the totally longest you're ever going to need it. And so once you're done, you're going to have some glue sticking out here a little bit, and you might have some leather hanging over the edges. And all you need to do is cut that off. Now you got to be careful when you're cutting this off that you're not going to cut into the leather, and cut sideways into the leather and get onto your surface, because you don't want to do that. Not a chance. So I'm just going to cut this off here. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to cut this first. I'm going to cut towards the center. Towards the wood, that is. Once you got it fairly even, you can take a sand block and sand this off, because it's going to be slightly wavy if you do it the way I did. You can see those little waves on there. If I went a little slower and I was more concerned with perfection, I could do it without those waves. But it's a tool. It's not a display item. It's not a piece of art. And then once you've got that all done, you're going to want to put some stropping compound on there. Some people just do plain leather like this, and it can work, but it's much more efficient if you use some stropping compound. In the past, this is what I've recommended, and even by the brand. The Dialux brand, green. Green is for stainless steel. It's designed to work best for that. And you just rub it onto the leather, and it'll do what you need doing. So that's one option, and I like that option. But what I like even more, let's get that green compound off of there, is using some of this stuff. This is the Batik brand. One of my viewers sent me several of these, and it comes in different, I guess, grits, for lack of a better word. It's an oil-based product, so is that Dialux. 0.5, and that is, it's not regular grit numbers. What is that number? I'll put it on the screen. It's a common word that for some reason my brain's not coming up. And he sent me all the way up to, I think, 30. And 30 is more coarse. The smaller number you get, the finer it is, the smaller the little particles in it are. I've been using 10 and 5 on my strop here. And that was after it had green stuff on there. My recommendation is that you use, when you glue this up, I forgot to tell you, you put one suede side up and one skin side up. So this is the outside of the skin, the side that's the smoothest. That's the outside of the animal. And the suede side, that's the side that's facing their muscle and fat and guts and stuff. And on the suede side, you want the more coarse grit, because that is more coarse, and your finer stuff on this side. Now, if you have really fine, if you've got like those latex rubber gloves or something else, then use those when you're applying this, unless you want that oil in your skin, which I don't recommend, even though there's no warning on it or anything. This stuff, the packaging comes apart pretty easily. The outside packaging is coming out, but as you can see, it's a compound in there. It's a greenish color compound. This one I think is greenish as well. And you just smear it on there, and you smear it on there and rub it in. You want into the leather, especially on this suede side. It takes a fair bit. So I'm going to go get a pair of gloves. Now, before I put that on, I want to talk a little bit more to you. You can even use, if you're using a TS Prof system, Hapstone, Apex, Edge Pro, whatever, all kinds. You could use hardwood and just put some of this compound on it and strop with this. But of course, you have to strop in just one direction. So if your knife is mounted, you're only stropping on that downstroke. If you strop on the upstroke, it's going to cut into the wood. But I found even wood compound on it does strop. It does take off and polish some steel and make it look really good. You could use hardboard, which is a manufactured wood out of fibers. And you can get leather. And one of my viewers sent me this leather in strips. It's a nice, thin, really good leather. Is this kangaroo leather? I forget exactly what kind of leather he sent me, but some really high quality leather. And it's made all thin already. And you can glue it onto either the hardboard or onto other wood and strop with actual leather on your sharpening system. I tried that. It works, but for me, it's faster doing it with a big board like this. And so that's all I'm going to talk about there. So which one is this? This one's the 10. Let's open this up. Yeah, the lid was cracked and everything coming apart, so I put some tape on it. And let's just get some of this compound, stropping compound, onto the board here. Now, he sent me several packages of this stuff, quite a few packages actually, and so I'm very thankful for that. Now, I might give some away to my lucky Patreon viewers, or some of the Patreon viewers. I don't have enough to share with everybody, but if you're one of my Patreon supporters and you'd like to try some of this compound, write me and let me know, and I'll send you some of this compound because I like to share. Somebody shared with me, and I'm going to share it on with you guys. Rub it in there really, really well. You don't need a whole bunch on the surface, like above the surface. Like when I put my knife across here, when I strop with my knife across here, I don't want it to pick up a bunch of this compound. So I want this compound to be rubbed in. And since this is not high grade leather, you can see some of the, they're not defects, it's just some of the natural marks in it. Yeah, sniffing that? My dog's sniffing this. If I could turn the camera, I could show you Bandit's just sniffing away. He's right barely at the edge of it. Wants to see what it is. He has to sniff everything. When we first got him, we got Bandit as a rescue dog. He would not use his nose for nothing. Something about the way he was being kept or something. He had no reason to use his nose, and so he never did. And a nose is, you know, the main feature on a dog is their nose. And a dog that doesn't use his nose doesn't really have a full life. And so we started hiding treats around the house. And he started using his nose again. And his personality changed after he started using his nose too. He was shy and kind of fearful and everything for a while before that. And we didn't notice for about 2 months that he wasn't using his nose. And once we did, and we figured that out, he turned into a much happier dog. Good for him. Okay, so I don't really mind that there's a little bit of this compound left on my glove. I'm still going to just use these same gloves, and this is the 0.5 compound. And it's a little more yellowy and not as green. We're going to put this compound on here. And it's not going to smear in quite as much, so I don't have to put it on quite as thick. I mean, I don't have to put on quite as much because it won't actually go into the leather as much. Rubbing it actually into the side of the leather as well, because I sometimes use the edge of my leather for stropping, maybe for stropping a serration, you know, because you can use a strop to strop serrations and everything, but you just need an edge for it. And so I'm rubbing this into the side as well, right into there on the edge of the leather. I've done another video on how to use a strop, so check out that video. Thanks for watching my stuff. It's the May long weekend, and my youngest 2 children, they're moving in together. My son and his girlfriend and my daughter, they are renting a house together. They're all going to university, they're all going to university or college in Calgary. And so it's cheaper if they live together instead of each one renting their own place. So they rented a complete house. It's actually larger than my house. And they're getting it for a good rate, but the place is quite dirty. So my wife and myself are helping them move and clean and everything. So we helped all day yesterday. Today's Sunday while I'm recording this, and Monday tomorrow is a day off in Canada. It's a Victoria Day long weekend. So I don't know why we still celebrate Queen Victoria's birthday, because she's a long past queen, long dead. Queen Elizabeth, long live the Queen, but she's been around for a long time, and she won't be around too much terribly longer, at least not in comparison with the length of how long she's been our queen. But we still celebrate under Victoria's name, so happy Victoria Day weekend. Those of you guys who were out camping, I hope you didn't get too wet or too cold. You know, you're watching this probably when you got back. And I hope you had a good time and enjoyed it a lot. Thanks to everybody else for liking, and you guys too, for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.